In this presentation, we'll be taking a look at how to navigate in Photoshop, and we'll also spend some time looking at the Layers panel. When you open Photoshop for the first time, you'll probably notice this splash page. This is a rather new element in the recent editions of Photoshop, but within it you can see you have some different preset ways of creating different images. So here under Photo you have some landscape modes. Notice that you have some areas where it'll tell you what the size is, right? So 3 by 2 inches by 300 ppi, 6 by 4 inches by 300 ppi, so pixels per inch. Over here you can also make those changes. So if you want to change the width to 12 by 10 or whatever, you can change the resolution. You can make it 100 ppi. But most of these presets will give you a good starting place. This is something that you can also change at a later point, so don't feel like you've locked into something if you've decided on a preset and then you end up wanting to change it. Nothing is locked in stone here. Alright, let's close this up and let's start by opening an image. So I went up to File, Open, and I have my image here ready to go. So I'm just going to open this up and see what we have inside. Now, if I can direct your attention, look over here. I have layer 1 and a background. Now, this is my layers panel, and it tells me the information about these layers. A layer is basically something like you could think about like stacking paper on top of other paper, or even tracing paper on top of other pieces of paper. Because basically what these layers do is they allow images to interact. Okay, so here I actually have a bat, and the background on the bat is clear. And so the white that you're seeing is actually this background layer. Now, if I press on this eyeball, I can hide that background layer, and this grid indicates that this is actually transparent. So I actually have a bat with transparency around it in this layer. If I press the eyeball again, I can see that background layer. A background layer is kind of like a default layer that shows up in Photoshop. Sometimes it doesn't let you work with things the way that you want to. So if you want to change it, you can just double click on that. And when you double click, this little dialog box comes up. It gives you the chance to name it, and I'll just call it background and press OK. And now I have just a normal interactive layer. If I decide that I want to get rid of it, I can press this little button here. This is a trash can, and I can actually delete that layer. I don't really need it, so I'll go ahead and do that. One other thing before I get further with this is I want to show you the elements that are over here on the side. You have different windows that are open: color, swatches, libraries, adjustments. And I'll try to keep it in this particular arrangement because this is probably what you'll see most often. But you can change all of this. Notice this little icon right here. If you click on it, you actually have different preset ways of viewing this page. So let me click on Painting. When I click on Painting, it's going to change these boxes to things that are more appropriate for painting. So I have Brushes panel. I have these general brushes here. This is all part of this panel. This is a new setup, which is rather nice. There's channels down here, paths, different things that I might start using. I don't really like this particular feature. I'm going to just get rid of that. And over here I have the toolbar. So toolbar is where all of your main tools are actually kept. There are different ways of viewing this as well. So you can expand it so that it's a double size. I like to keep it small personally. And then up here you have options. So let's say I click on this. This is the crop tool. And when I click on the crop tool, I have different options that are available to me. So I can crop this within a particular ratio or particular kinds of sizes. I can use a straining effect or a grid. All of these, there's no need to get into them right now. Each of these tools has their own particular options, and it's good to know that they are up here and ready for you to use. Okay, so those are some of the basic layout elements of Photoshop. Now, what I'd like to do is add in another layer. So I'm just going to go back to Essentials here, put that here so we can see where these things are at. Here's my layer down here. And I'm going to jump really quickly over into Chrome. Alright, I've got this image, and I'd like to make this the background, some nice creepy castle. I'm going to click on Copy Image. Now, what I just did here is I right-clicked on this. So if you have a mouse with a right button, you can right-click and you can say Copy Image. Now, if you're working on a Mac and you don't have that, which is common, I had to buy this mouse, you can just press Control and then click, and that'll do the same thing. That'll open up that menu for you. Alright, so I have copied that image. Now I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to make a new layer. Easy way to do that is just click on this little button right here, and now I have layer 2 sitting on top of my bat. Now if I leave it like that, anything I put on the layer is going to cover the bat. So remember that you're basically looking down this way. So what's here is going to be seen first, and then what is down here is going to be seen secondarily. Alright, so I'm going to put this on layer 2, and I'm just going to press Command V. And Command V pastes that into place. I'm going to switch over to my Move tool, which is right here, and move this around until I find some kind of an interesting space. And let's just do something like that. So now I've got my background, and I've got my second layer. Now, I've selected my first layer again. I'm going to take that bat and move him around. So you see that each of these layers you can actually change independently. And you can start to arrange things so that you can collage images together. I want to note one quick thing. If you're working in Windows, the key commands that I'll be referencing are going to be a little bit different than if you're working on a Mac. I myself, I work on a Mac, and so if I wanted to do something like copy, I would press Command C. If you're working on a PC, then you would want to press Control C. Now, if I make a new layer and I want to paste a duplicate of this bat in there, I would press Command V, right? And if you're working on a PC, you would want to press Control C. Okay, so that's a distinction that'll be helpful if I ever forget to mention that. And the other one that connects to that is Option and Alt. So on a Mac, you would press the Option button, whereas on a PC, that same button would be the Alt button, and it would do the same thing for you. Okay, so I've got two bats. I don't actually need two bats, so I'm going to get rid of one of these layers and just press this nice little trash can there, and yes, get rid of that layer. One other thing that you might notice is when you hover over the tools, these little things will start to show up. You've got these, which are called rich tooltips. This is a new edition of Photoshop, and if you find that helpful, that's fine. You can keep them there. But if you're like me, you might find those a little bit too distracting. Well, all you need to do is just go to Preferences, and I'm going to click here in General. If you would like to know the key command to that, it's Command K or Control K if you're working on a PC. And it just go down here to Tools, and I'm just going to take Use Rich Tooltips off. I don't like those, so I take those off and I keep those hidden away. So that is how you do that. Now, one other thing that I'd like to mention before we close up this demonstration. If you need to take something and put it onto another image, notice over here I've opened up another image. Okay, so I have this, opened it up, and I have two of these open. Now these little things up here are called tabs, and you can just click on them to open up the different tabs. Now let's say I like this bat, but I decide I want to actually put it on a different layer. Well, all you have to do is take this is your Move tool, and click on the layer that you want. I've got my bat selected, and I'm just going to click and drag and pull up to this tab. And I'm still holding on, I'm not letting go, and now I drop it. And there's the bat. I can make the bat as if he's flying through this other space. And notice over here he has not actually moved. So when you do that process and you think, oh no, I moved it out of place, you didn't. You didn't. He's not. He's still there. Look, I put two bats in here. And he is still in the same place. So don't worry about that. That is how you basically take a layer and move it into a new image. So now we've got two bats flying in this new space. If I want, I can move them around on different layers. If I decide I want one in the front, maybe I want this one in the front. Doesn't really matter right now. But anyway, that's how you do that. You can take layers, you can move them around. Notice how I can't actually move anything under the background because, again, that's the background layer. I'll just double click on that. I'm not going to worry about changing it and just press OK. And now if I put this bat behind it, well, now I can't see it because this is all opaque pixels. There's no transparency there, so I can't actually see behind it. So that is how you arrange layers. You can hide them, and you can make it do what you want. And that is how you begin to navigate Photoshop and the Layers panel.